We're going to learn Kepler's law and all these things. Okay, first let's go with the keynote. Yesterday we have learned that is by Newton's gravitation law, F is equal to some gravitational constant G into m1 into m2 upon r square. That is the force exerted on any body is directly proportional to product of their masses and inversely proportional to the square of distance between them, where G is the universal gravitational constant. What is the value of G? G is the value of G is 6.67 into 10 raised to power minus 11. What is the SI unit? Its SI unit is Newton meter square per kg square. Okay, yesterday we have learned all these things. Okay, here I am giving the keynote because what happens if any one of the mass of the object is doubled? The question may arise, what happens if any one of the mass of the object is doubled? What happens if suppose m1 is or m dash, new m dash will be twice of m1? What happens if it is twice of m1? It will be multiplied by 2. It means that the force will be doubled. Force will be doubled. Okay. Next, suppose if distance between two objects is doubled, what happens is force will decrease by 2r. Its square means 4r, means the force will decrease by 4 times. Force will decrease by 4 times. Okay, this is the note which they may ask you for 1 mark, single mark. Okay, in the class. That is, if the mass of any one object first key point, if the mass of any one object is doubled, then the force will also get doubled. Okay. Second, if the distance between two objects, if the distance between two objects is made twice, we can say, or doubled, then the force will decrease by 4 times. How? F is inversely proportional to 1 upon r square. Okay, so if r is doubled, means if it has become twice of r, that is f dash will become twice of 2r whole square. It will become as 1 upon 4r square. Means actually force was this one. Okay, so it has become 1 upon 4 times, decreased by 4 times. Okay, so these are the key points of the Newton's gravitation law. Second point, I would like to make it clear that yesterday I have said that if we take the two objects, while taking the distance between two objects, we take its center. That is r. Okay. Now, instead of regular objects or regular shapes like sphere or cell, square or cell, okay, instead of regular shape or regular objects, if the irregular objects are present, so how you will take its center? Because it don't have any center point, suppose object is in this way. Okay, so you cannot say that its center is somewhere here itself or somewhere here itself. Now how you will take the distance between the two objects? Okay, for such concepts we have to take the concept of center of mass. Center of mass means you have to take the center of mass of this object and center of mass of other object, then the distance between the two center of mass. Okay, now what is the concept of center of mass? Center of mass guy. Okay, center of mass is defined as, the center of mass is defined as a body whose whole mass is concentrated at one point. A body whose mass of the whole body is concentrated at a single point. That particular point is called as center of mass. For example, this is the pen. Okay, now I am concentrating whole pen at to the one point. Okay, I am concentrating whole pen up to the one point. This particular point is called as center of mass. This particular point is called as center of mass. For irregular objects or irregular shapes of the body, okay, we have to take the distance between two center of mass. Center of mass can be outside the body or center of mass can be inside the body. Please remember, center of mass can be outside the body or center of mass can be inside the body. Center of mass is defined as the point at which whole mass of the body is supposed to be concentrated. That particular point of the body is called as center of mass. Okay, got it? So third point also I have made it clear, that is, while taking the distance between two objects, if the bodies are regular, okay, directly you can take their centers. Okay, if the bodies are irregular, don't take their centers because we do not have the particular center. In that case, you have to take center of mass. Okay, so this is all about the key points. Nextly, we will go for Oscar. Okay, so what is Kepler's first law? Every planet revolves around the sun in an elliptical orbit where sun is situated at one of the foci. Okay, let me make it clear here that what is ellipse first, then only you can understand this first law. Okay, so in order to have the ellipse, just I am drawing here an cone, an ice cream cone, we can say it. Okay, so this is your ice cream cone, you can say, or any cone. Now if I cut the portion from here in this way, what I get is I get a part in this way. This particular part is called as ellipse. Circle is different thing and ellipse is different thing. Why? I will make it clear here by drawing a diagram in 2D. That is, so this is your ellipse. So what is the specialty in the ellipse? Just I will say it here. So there are two axes in this ellipse. One is called as semi-major axis, other is called as semi-minor axis. This is called as semi-major axis, this is called as semi-minor axis. Why it is called as major axis? You can see this is major in the sense mota hai. Okay, minor in the sense it's small. That's why it's called as semi-minor axis. It is semi-minor axis. This is semi-major axis. Okay, this is semi-major, this is semi-major axis, semi-minor axis. This is the center of the ellipse. This is the center of the ellipse. And foci, there is bit confusion between some students, that is, they take foci as the center. Foci is not at the center. Okay, it is present at this point. Why I am talking about foci? Foci is the plural form of focus. It is called as actually focus. There are two focus, that's why it is called as foci. So these both are focus. Focus of the ellipse. This much is sufficient for you. Okay. So if you want the properties, just I will say you the properties. Suppose A and B are F1 and F2 are the focus. If I take F1 and F2 are the focus. So if we want the property of the ellipse, just I will keep it here. So if I take any point onto the ellipse, that is, Property of the ellipse says that f1a plus af2 is always equal to f1b plus bf2 plus bf2, or you can take any point, any number of points, the property will be same. f1c plus, if I take point c, f1c plus c f2 will be equal to f1a plus a f2. This is the property of the ellipse. Okay, we are काही त्याची आवश्यकता नाहीये, पण माहिती असावं म्हणून तुम्हाला सांगतोय. ठीक आहे. सो अकॉर्डिंग टू द केपलर्स फर्स्ट लॉ, according to the Kepler's first law, each and every planet is revolving around the sun in an elliptical orbit. Means in this way they are revolving, where sun is situated at one of the foci. एक तर sun इथं असेल, नाही तर sun इथं असेल. ठीक आहे, दोन्ही पैकी एका ठिकाणी असेल आणि सगळे प्लॅनेट्स असे elliptical orbit मध्ये revolve होईल. That is the Kepler's first law. Okay, means sun is present here, either here or here, and each and every planet they are revolving in this way. Okay, now let's go to the Kepler's second law. Okay, let's go to the Kepler's second law. What this Kepler's second law says is, line joining the sun and planet sweeps out equal area in equal interval of time. What it means, what? Suppose here is the sun at the focus according to the first law, and suppose the planets are revolving. Okay, so line joining this sun means focus, and planet in the sense is on the ellipse. Okay, so suppose at point A and at point C, okay, there are two different planets, we can say. Okay, so both the planets are starting at the same time. Okay, so as the planet from C goes from C to D and A goes from A to B, okay, the area AFB and the area DFC will be equal according to this law. Okay, what this law is saying, the line joining sun and planet sweeps out equal area in equal interval of time. If the time taken for the planet at position A, it sweeps the area AFB will be equal to the area swept by the planet at the point C, that is CFB. That is, area 1 will be equal to area 2 in same time. Okay, so once again I repeat, the line joining the sun and the planet, or the line joining the focus and the point on the ellipse, sweeps out equal area in equal interval of time. This is the second law. This is the Kepler's second law of planetary motion. Okay, now let's go to the third law. So what this Kepler's third law says is, the square of time period of a planet is directly proportional to the cube of semi-major axis. What this is, what is time period? The time required by a planet to complete one rotation or one revolution. Okay, that is called as time period. The time period, okay, the square of time period of the planet is directly proportional to the cube of semi-major axis. You know the semi-major axis and semi-minor axis. Its cube, that is t square, is directly proportional to r cube. T square is directly proportional to the r cube. So it can become as t square upon r cube is equal to some constant k. T square is directly proportional to r cube. T square upon r cube is equal to some proportionality constant k. It is constant, some proportionality constant k. Okay, so this is the Kepler's third law. First law, what is the first law? First law is, every planet revolves around the sun in an elliptical orbit where sun is situated at one of the foci. Second says is that line joining the sun and planet sweeps out equal area in equal interval of time. Third law says is the sorry, the square of time period of a planet is directly proportional to the cube of semi-major axis, which is given by t square is directly proportional to r cube, that is t square upon r cube is equal to k. So these are the Kepler's planetary laws of motion. Second point of our gravitation, that is circular motion. Circular motion, what is circular motion? Generally circular motion you may be knowing, there are so many examples, that is earth revolve around the sun in a circular orbit. Okay, in a circular orbit, that motion of that particular sun, motion of that earth around the sun is nothing but the circular motion. Okay, so let's make the definition of the circular motion, that is the motion of a particle, the motion of a particle along the circumference of the circle, along the circumference of the circle, is called as circular motion. What is circular motion? Motion of the particle, I am talking about particle, the motion of the particle along the circumference of the circle is called as circular motion. Okay, example, motion of earth around sun, motion of the earth around the sun. Next, tip of your second hand or tip of your minute hand, tip of minute hand or second hand or your hour hand. Okay, giving physical example means, suppose if I एका विद्यार्थ्याला एका पंख्यावरती बसवलं, त्या विद्यार्थ्याचं जो मोशन असणार आहे ते कोणतं असणार आहे? सर्क्युलर मोशन. ते कोणतं मोशन असणार आहे? सर्क्युलर मोशन. ठीक आहे. त्याच्यानंतर समजा पूर्ण फॅनचं मोशन सर्क्युलर मोशन नाहीये. डोंट फील दॅट द होल मोशन ऑफ द फॅन इज सर्क्युलर मोशन. नो, इट्स रॉंग. द मोशन ऑफ दॅट पर्टिक्युलर स्टुडंट विच इज सिटिंग ऑन द फॅन्स ब्लेड, द मोशन ऑफ दॅट पर्टिक्युलर स्टुडंट इज नथिंग बट द सर्क्युलर मोशन. ठीक है. So what is the definition? The motion of the particle along the circumference of the circle is called as circular motion. ठीक है. Next point is centripetal force. Centripetal force. Very important point and very important force also. Okay. So what is this centripetal force? Centripetal force is the force acting on the particle performing circular motion. The force which is acting on the particle. ठीक आहे. एखादा पार्टिकल मोशन परफॉर्म करतोय मी, त्याला काहीतरी फोर्स असायला पाहिजे. तो फोर्स कोणता असणार आहे? तो फोर्स असणार आहे सेंट्रीपेटल फोर्स. सेंट्रीपेटल याला शब्दाला जर मी फोडलं, सेंट्रीपेटल, सेंट्री मीन्स सेंटर, पेटल मीन्स सीकिंग, सेंटर सीकिंग फोर्स, दिस फोर्स इज कॉल्ड एज सेंट्रीपेटल फोर्स. Center seeking force is called as centripetal force. Okay, so I will make the definition here. The force acting on the particle, acting on a particle, which particle? The particle which is performing circular motion. The force acting on the particle performing which motion? Circular motion. The force acting on the particle performing circular motion is called as centripetal force. But let's talk about its direction. The force acting on the particle performing circular motion which is directed along the radius towards the center. Is called as centripetal force. Once again, what is centripetal force? the force acting on the particle performing circular motion which is directed along the radius towards the center. That particular force is called as centripetal force. एखादा पार्टिकल सर्क्युलर मोशन परफॉर्म करत असेल तर त्याच्यावरती ऍक्ट होणारा फोर्स म्हणजे सेंट्रीपेटल फोर्स आहे. त्याच्यावरती ऍक्ट होणारा फोर्स म्हणजे कसा आहे, सेंट्रीपेटल फोर्स आहे. त्याची डायरेक्शन कशी आहे, ऑलवेज अलोंग द रेडियस टुवर्ड्स द सेंटर. ठीक आहे. सेकंड थिंग विच इज मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टंट, विदाउट सेंट्रीपेटल फोर्स देर इज नो सर्क्युलर मोशन. सेंट्रीपेटल फोर्स नसेल तर सर्क्युलर मोशन सुद्धा होणं शक्य नाहीये. ठीक आहे. विदाउट सेंट्रीपेटल फोर्स देर इज नो सर्क्युलर मोशन. सेंट्रीपेटल फोर्स असेल तरच तुमचा सर्क्युलर मोशन होऊ शकतो. सेंट्रीपेटल फोर्स नसेल तर सर्क्युलर मोशन होणं शक्य नाहीये. तो लिनियर मोशन होईल किंवा दुसरा कोणता मोशन होईल. ठीक आहे. पण सर्क्युलर मोशन होणं शक्य नाही. सर्क्युलर मोशन होत असेल तर 100% त्या ठिकाणी सेंट्रीपेटल फोर्स आहे. ठीक आहे. तर त्याचा मॅग्निट्यूड काय आहे, त्याचा मॅग्निट्यूड डायरेक्टली लिहूयात. F इज इक्वल टू mv square upon r. What is the magnitude of centripetal force? The magnitude of centripetal force is mv square upon r is equal to mv square upon r. Okay, this is nothing but the magnitude of centripetal force. Direction kashi hai? Direction is along the radius towards the center. Centripetal force, center seeking force. Okay, so this is the direction of centripetal force. It is given as F is equal to mv square upon r. Okay, there is one more force called as centrifugal force which is directed along the radius away from the center, but we are not having in our syllabus, so we'll study in 11th class and all these things. Okay.